Pokemon Mystery Dungeon Rescue Team DX. What the hell is that? Well, it's definitely not a classic Pokemon game, I'll tell you that much. You definitely aren't a Pokemon trainer going around to all the different areas trying to catch all the Pokemon and become the champion in this one. In this game, you play as a Pokemon. To start things off, you'll be asked a couple of questions, and then the game will decide which Pokemon you are. It turns out, I'm a Cyndaquil. After that, you get to choose your partner Pokemon, and together, you form a rescue team. Apparently, the job of a Pokemon rescue team is to help other Pokemon who can't complete tasks on their own. So what's the gameplay like? The basic explanation is that you take on different missions to help other Pokemon by going into these mystery dungeons, which are randomly generated. As you explore the dungeon, you'll go from floor to floor fighting enemy Pokemon. But if you picked up some side quests from the bulletin board, you could also encounter a Pokemon that needs your help, which usually consists of you walking up to them and just teleporting them out of the dungeon, or bringing a friend of theirs to their side. It's hard to explain how this game works, but I'm going to give it my best shot. When you're in a dungeon, you're kind of playing on a grid. So every time you move from one square to the next, or take an action such as using an item or attacking an enemy, it counts as one turn. Yeah, there's still a turn-based element in this game. To make things easier to understand, let's say I move my Cyndaquil one square to the side. After that, every other Pokemon on my team will move in that direction, and all the enemies on the map will also move. If I'm in combat, and I attack with my Pokemon, the rest of my team will try to attack after me if they're within range. If not, the enemy will go before I can attack again. And I know all of this sounds like it takes a million years to do anything, but it's actually pretty fluid. I think if I had one complaint about this grid system, it's just the movement in general sometimes. You have to hold different buttons to move in different ways. And honestly, it gets a little annoying trying to remember how to do all this shit. If an enemy Pokemon encounters you from the side, you have to press the Y button to face him without wasting your turn so you can attack him first. If you want to move diagonally, you have to hold the right bumper. If you want to pass through one of your teammates without pushing them, you have to hold the B button. But the B button is also used to run in the game, so if you hold the B button for too long, you'll pass through your friends and then run all the way down the map. All of this makes moving around feel a little clunky at times. Combat in this game also takes a little getting used to. Each Pokemon has 4 moves that they can use with a limited amount of times they can use them. Pokemon can also learn different moves as they level up. Different moves also have different ranges. For example, something like Tackle will hit one square in front of your Pokemon, or if you use something like Razor Leaf, that can hit an enemy up to 4 squares away. This game still follows the concept of type advantages, so if you have a fire Pokemon, it's going to be good against grass, or if you have a water Pokemon, it's going to be good against fire. There are also different items that you can pick up, such as rocks and wands that you can use to attack the enemy Pokemon. If you fight an enemy in a narrow hallway, it'll mostly be your lead Pokemon that's doing all the damage, but if you encounter one in a larger space, all the rest of your Pokemon will surround it and you'll just absolutely destroy that enemy. And I think that's where the combat truly shines. Another interesting mechanic they included in this game for the combat is the ability to link your moves together. This allows your Pokemon to use multiple moves at the same time. For example, I have a Magnemite that knows Tackle and Thundershock, which are 2 individual moves normally. But if I link that Thundershock to Tackle, he'll perform the Thundershock every time I choose to use Tackle. You can link up to 3 moves to another move, so if you really wanted to, you can link all of your moves together and just have your Pokemon use them all at the same time. You do have to be a little careful with this though. If you have 2 moves that are linked together, you won't be able to use them individually during the mission until you get back to town to unlink them. Another key feature of this game is your Pokemon's hunger meter. When you start a mission, each of your 3 Pokemon will have a hunger meter that starts at 100, and every time you do something, it'll go down a little bit. And when I say do something, I mean anything. Walking, fighting, using linked moves will deplete it more, pushing other friendly Pokemon. The hunger meter will only go down for the Pokemon that you're directly controlling, so you can switch around between the 3 characters you have with you. But if you really need to refill your hunger meter, you can eat items like apples to try and restore some of it. So far, I've only mentioned that you can do side quests to help random Pokemon in the mystery dungeons, but what else can you do in this game? The first thing to mention is that there's a story to this game, and each time you do a story mission, you'll be taken to a new mystery dungeon to explore. The story involves your Pokemon that you chose to play as suddenly waking up and telling everybody that he was a human just the day before. It also deals with the partner Pokemon you chose trying to form the best rescue team. Each story mission will either give you more details on what happened to your Pokemon, or it'll help your partner Pokemon increase the awareness of your rescue team. For all you out there who like to play Pokemon games to collect all the Pokemon, you can kinda do that in this game. Instead of catching them with Pokeballs, some of the enemy Pokemon will ask to join your team once you defeat them. If you agree to let them join your team, they'll stay with you for the rest of the mission and help you out. But in order to keep them forever, you have to have the proper camp to keep them in. And there's 45 camps for you to buy in this game. When you get new Pokemon for your team, they still have different stats and different abilities, but now they also have something called a rare quality. Rare qualities affect your entire team while you're out in a dungeon. One of my Pokemon has the Lonely Courage rare quality, which allows them to be extra strong when they don't have any teammates around. But if I bring him into the mystery dungeon with the rest of my team, every single one of my Pokemon will have that quality. So for all you Pokemon collectors out there, it's not difficult to get Pokemon to join you, but it can be difficult to get the right combination of ability and rare quality that you want. So now I'm going to tell you some of my personal thoughts on this game. When I first started playing, I kept thinking this is such a weird game. I've never played anything like this. But I started having more and more fun as I played and learned how things worked in the game. I still think moving around in the mystery dungeon is a little stiff, and all the side missions are the same thing over and over again. But collecting all the Pokemon and fighting some of the more powerful Pokemon is pretty fun. I think this game has weird difficulty spikes that don't really make sense and don't feel like they were intended. For the most part, this game is pretty easy. It's not much of a spoiler, but in one of the early story missions, you come across a Zapdos and you have to fight it, and my team steamrolled him in 30 seconds flat. And you would think fighting a Zapdos would be way harder than that, but it isn't. But then at a different point in the game, my team encountered a regular Hoot-Hoot. And this Pokemon knew the move Hypnosis, which puts your Pokemon to sleep. And all of a sudden, he put me in this hypnosis loop where every time I woke up, he put me back to sleep, and there was nothing I can do about it. Another weird one was when I encountered an Execute. He has a move called Barrage that hits you more than one time, and he hit one of my Pokemon with that move and instantly took him out. I still think despite these two weird instances, this game is definitely geared towards a more casual audience. After playing Pokemon Sword and Shield and realizing it's the same game it's always been since the first generation, Pokemon Mystery Dungeon is a nice change of pace. It's nice to play a Pokemon game that breaks the mold and gives me a different kind of adventure, which is what I wish Sword and Shield did, but that's not what this video's about. There is one thing that I wish I could have seen in this game, and it didn't occur to me until my girlfriend, who was sitting there watching me play, told me. When we first started playing, she asked me if, since we're a Pokemon, are we going to encounter trainers who are going to try and capture us and we have to get away from them? And now that's something I definitely need to see in a future Pokemon game. After playing all these Pokemon games for all these years, and having one of your main goals be to capture all the Pokemon, can you imagine what that's like from the Pokemon's point of view? I would definitely play that game. Anyway, I'm going to try and give this game a score, but it's been pretty difficult trying to think of one. I think I'm actually going to try and give it 2 scores. I think if you're the type of person who wants a more casual experience that you could play passively, and you're not looking for too much difficulty in your game, then this is probably the game for you. Or if you're someone with kids that are like 6 to 8 years old, and you want to play something that's not too difficult with them, this is definitely the game for you as well. And finally, if you're just a Pokemon fan, or if you grew up playing the Mystery Dungeon games, this is probably your game too. So for everybody who falls into those categories, I'm going to give this game an 8 out of 10. I would say if you're looking for a more challenging game, then this definitely isn't the game for you. If you play the mainline Pokemon games and you like going into the stats and abilities and making perfect teams, this definitely isn't for you. You can kind of do that here, like finding the same Pokemon with better stats or better abilities, but it's not really necessary. You can get by on just what you have. The biggest thing here is if you don't want to play a game that's completely aimed towards children and is easy enough for them to play, you definitely don't want to play this game. For everyone who falls into these categories, the score is closer to a 6 out of 10. It's still a fun game, but it's definitely not going to have something that you're looking for. Now maybe go play this game.